Yo, and we are live. Come one, come all, nothing but love, nothing but respect. You know what we do, what we don't, what we is, what we isn't. And what we is following the good stuff, chapter 1029 of One Piece called the Tower. I'm Jade, and today have with me Daniel, aka X for Brekkie. Daniel, say hi.
Hello, hello.
Hello, hello, and you're coming through as well, which is good because I didn't test that. Um, I'm not gonna lie. This chapter had me hyped beyond belief, but also this chapter, dead set, has me stuck in a power scaling mindset where now I'm just like I just want to talk about fights. Is that is that toxic of me? Because honestly, this was a damn good chapter, wasn't it?
Yeah, I was really happy with this chapter.
Like, I I just lost my shit in this chapter in the best possible ways. You know,
Yeah.
I was just fully overwhelmingly excited from the beginning where we had Sanji and Queen, and the follow up from Sanji getting the sword broken on his face to the Big Mum,
hmm
Law, and kid stuff, and then the damn cherry on top of Killer versus Hawkins.
Yeah.
Holy
This
shit.
There was no weak points on this chapter.
This was. I rated this chapter, I think, a 9 out of 10 or a 10 out of 10, right?
hmm
I think I'd probably still give it a. If I didn't give it a 10 out of 10, I think I'd give this a 9 out of 10. But I would definitely say that like the only way to improve it would be to have some major plot reveal. You know
Yeah.
what I mean? Like just like I'd need some Void Sentry shit or like an Admiral's face reveal or some shit. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But regardless, this was still such a damn start to finish hype chapter. This was a sexy chapter. This was a
hmm
sexy chapter. Um, so, first things first, is there anything you want to immediately address with this chapter?
I mean, I think we just go through the start because honestly, there was no weak points. There was no. I mean, there were highlights, but like they were spread throughout the chapter. So
Uh,
let's just go through it.
we pick up where we left off with Queen having shattered a sword over Sanji's face.
hmm
Everyone is absolutely shook about it. Interestingly enough, Sanji's skin has gone steel-like because you can see that it's retained the indentation from the sword,
Yes.
and more importantly, he's got to pull his cheek back out like his siblings when they get damaged too heavily. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Yeah.
But specifically here, there was argument to be had last chapter that there was no healing factor, that it was
Yeah.
just metal, and that once you reshape the metal into the proper areas, that
Yeah.
that's all it was, right?
The idea being he kind of just sort of like cracked himself back into place,
Yeah,
as
yeah.
opposed to actually healing the wound. But as we've seen here, it is just blatantly mentioned healing factor.
I'm sorry, but outside of Marco, outside of Marco, Kaido, and Luffy and Kid,
hmm
we don't have another person really that has like a de facto healing factor. We have the zones that can recover quick, yeah, but that's not
Mm.
like it's not to this sort of extent. You know what I mean?
Yeah, the idea of just being able to like outright heal is a ridiculous ability. Like it's I mean it makes Wolverine in the Marvel comics like as busted as he is.
Mm-hmm.
Outside of that, he's just like a hard metal dude with sharp claws compared to all the other crazy people. But the fact that he can heal is just the thing that makes him ridiculous.
Oh, it was insane. And it's
Yeah, I mean,
beautiful, and it actually raises the question: what's the threshold of damage with this? Because Sanji already seems to be a bit stronger than his siblings. Because I'd like to
yeah,
point out that and this gets glossed over a lot, but if he was directly equal to his other siblings in terms of strength, right?
hmm
Then I'd like to point out Katakuri one shot low diffed Ichiji and gave him a bloody face. You know what I
yeah,
mean? Whereas Sanji here is taking an off guard commander attack point blank, and like it literally didn't even shake his ability to stand in that moment.
Yeah.
You
Here's
know.
the thing, like like you were saying, like his cheek got cracked in and it kind of like stayed there a little bit. So the idea would be, if somebody was able to just swing, 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 swing and just hit him over and over and over again, it'd probably just like dent him to the point where he was like incapacitated.
Hmm.
So like that attack, it's not doing actually nothing to him, but because it broke the sword, especially, um, Queen, for example, can't repeat that attack over and over and over and over again against Sanji. So right now, like obviously, the fight's gonna get more interesting. Queen's gonna pull something out of his bag. But right now, the only thing that I could actually see Queen doing that's gonna hurt Sanji is the lasers.
See, and this brings
Um,
me to another point.
yeah.
Like, we don't know if the lasers are going to actually do damage. I'm assuming they will, because it's like a heat
Hmm.
based and it's like a penetrative based thing. And
Yeah.
we've seen all throughout the story that like these lasers go through stuff like everything's butter to them. Like,
Yeah.
arguably, these lasers have probably got the highest accuracy based damage consistently in the story. From the
Yeah.
pacifistas, from Kizaru, from Frankie, like even just having finished Punk Hazard, right?
Hmm.
There was a giant super reinforced door, and Sanji was belting it like crazy, trying to kick his way out. Frankie gets up and melts it with the laser.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So
Yeah.
it's like the threshold for damage is pretty
Hmm.
insane. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Now I have something, and this is a bit fan servicey, okay? So this
Okay.
isn't, I don't necessarily think this is going to happen, but it would be pretty interesting when you think about Queen's sort of repertoire. He has lasers, he has poison gas, then we have King with fire. It would be pretty interesting. All we need is something like electricity, and we've basically got all of Sanji's siblings' elements. And it would be really cool if Sanji started like, you know how we saw Reiju absorb poison and like basically drink it?
Oh.
If a laser finally hits Sanji and he just eats it.
I am
Like
pretty sure though.
basically because he has Ichiji's like laserish power.
I am pretty sure though. Rage is the only one of the Vin smokes that also has a devil fruit, so that might be an effect for devil fruit. Because I'm pretty sure she's got a type of poisonous
Okay.
butterfly devil fruit.
Okay, right. Would that mean that she doesn't have a
She's
element?
yeah. So I don't think she has an element, but she's modified after birth, whereas the
Okay.
four of them were modified in the womb from like embryonic
Okay, right,
stages. You know
right,
what I
right,
mean?
right. Yeah, so we don't necessarily know if they can like consume their own
Elements, yeah.
let
I
yeah,
mean,
elements, yeah.
arguably, we don't even know if they've all got elements. Yonji hasn't displayed necessarily any element. It's just that he's more on the cybernetic side of the enhancement. Like, it seemed like,
Oh, I mean, yeah, yeah. Yonji, like my kind of idea with Yonji is he got the physical enhancements, but he didn't get an element power, and so in order to sort of like try to keep up with his brothers, he just went chop my arm off and give me the wench.
oh yeah, no, that's pretty much it. I'm assuming like the chemicals that Sora ingested in this
Hmm.
situation. What I'm pretty sure happened is it Saji took the brunt of it, but it also affected
Hmm.
Yonji, stopping Yonji from developing the elemental side of it, but he still retained the DNA side that, gave him the metal skin and the growth and that. So it's like, if it wasn't for Saji, Yonji would be the dud. You know
Yeah,
what I mean?
yeah, yeah.
And it's just like it just so happens that it's like it doesn't really matter because to get around that, he didn't have an element, but he got the hardened skin in that. Whereas Sanji arguably had the opposite, where he had no hardened skin, but he got the element originally.
Yeah.
So it's
Well, I mean,
like,
he developed the element, I guess,
yeah, yeah,
eventually.
yeah. So arguably that could even be something that happens to Yonji later on in the story, where he starts to develop an element as well if he gets stronger. But
Yeah, that would be interesting.
I don't think we'll ever really cover that.
Yeah, see, what we need to eventually find out is why wearing the suit for some reason caused Sanji's thing to change, or even if that's even related. Like maybe Sanji just thinks it's related and it's not, but
Mm-hmm.
maybe it is. So something to do with the suit. Obviously, there's like theories around like, I mean, I think we were talking about like he puts the suit on and maybe like the suit is designed to sort of enhance his like genetic
Code.
factors,
Yeah.
and because he doesn't have any, this suit kind of just like found where it is and like activated it.
Yeah.
Whereas, yeah, and so little things like that. But obviously, that's just kind of speculation.
Uh,
Yeah, it's really interesting. Like, I want to see if potentially now it's not just the fact that he got the physical aspects of this. It'll be interesting to see, first of all, if he does start to lose his emotions, and if he, and what happens with that, or if he like gets more control over his
see,
element.
what I
Maybe he can actually use fire better
what
in the
I
end.
what I think actually might be interesting for the story is Sanji starts overthinking it and starts to think he's losing his emotions, and
Right.
because he's overthinking it, he's distracted, and it causes a situation where someone gets hurt, most likely a female character. So he feels
Okay, and
guilty
then
from it, and then
yeah,
realizes I haven't lost my emotions. How could I be so stupid to, to even think that? You know what I mean?
yeah, yeah,
and
that
and
would be pretty good.
and then he gets a power up. Say Queen collateral damage and hits Nami or something with an explosion because Sanji's indecisively thinking like, oh, I've got no emotion. What do I do? You know what I mean?
Yeah,
Then all of a
yeah,
sudden we've got like Hell's Memories 2.0 taking out Queen.
yeah, right.
I definitely could see it being something like that, and I feel like story wise, narratively, that's probably the more entertaining way to take it. Because if he
Mm-hmm.
starts to lose his emotions, like the only thing I could really see him doing if he lost his emotions is being cold and distant to Nami or Robin.
Yeah,
In which case, Nami would take it personally, and Robin would just go, "Oh, he wasn't in his right state of mind," so it wouldn't have any impact necessarily.
yeah.
And
Yeah.
I don't think it would be wasted in that regard. Alternatively, he might lose his emotions, decide to keep fighting Queen, and someone else need help, but him just determining that fighting Queen is more important than helping someone. Because
Okay, yeah.
the narrative we've been sort of spoon fed throughout the whole New World is Sanji's biggest asset is his kindness.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like from helping Kinemon, listening to Nami and helping the children on Punk Hazard,
Yeah, yeah.
helping Viola, looking after the
Mhm.
minks when they were poisoned, even treating Pudding with kindness after all the shit she did to him, and helping the
Yeah.
Vinsmokes and that. It would be really interesting if we've been setting up Sanji's plot line of like, he's the kind of straw hat just to rob him of it. You know what I mean?
Hmm. Yeah, I don't necessarily think that they are going to go away. Um, or I mean, I'll tell you what, if they do go away, all I'm thinking is Chopper's going to have some way to cure the smiles, and it's going to work on Sanji as well. That's that.
Mm, yeah.
But yeah, I don't think they're going to go away. One thing that's worrying me now seeing this fight is, like you said, like it'd be cool if if he took Queen out with Hell's Memories. Um, I really don't want Sanji to like get a handle of his powers, and then just like as soon as he does, like as soon as that sort of like narrative bit is over, he just dumps us on Queen, and then the
Mm.
fight ends.
Well,
I want to be impressed by
okay.
Queen King at the end of these fights, and if
So
he does, I'm just gonna go ahead and say like, oh man, Queen sucks.
I'm not
Like
gonna
all
lie.
of the Big Mom commanders had such an amazing showing, and need to see
I'm
something from these two.
I'm not gonna lie. At this point in time, I'm actually thoroughly impressed by Queen. He's
Mhm.
far surpassed my expectations. Although I would like to see him using Haki more frequently.
Yeah,
Um,
I would at least like to see someone block with Haki and he blows through it anyway, and he's like, I don't need Haki, I'm so strong, or
yeah,
something,
yeah.
some kind of explanation.
We've seen him
Because right
use
now, as far as
Haki.
we're concerned, yeah, like as far as we're concerned, it's like he doesn't really use Haki much, which means he's bad.
Yeah.
I want some kind of thing where it's like I don't really use Haki
See,
much because I don't
that
need to.
that was the biggest thing with the Tobirapa, where it's like, did they get taken down before they actually showed their full strength because none of them really used Haki other than Who's Who?
Mm. And you would imagine like any kind of respectable New World captain, even if you're gonna get defeated by a Yonko, gonna have Haki.
Yeah, and I mean we've been told through Vivre cards and information and stuff like that. They all have armament and observation Haki. It's just we haven't seen them utilize it,
Use it,
especially
yeah.
defensively, which seems like because this might sound a little crazy here, right? Because like I've just been doing my big reread through this story, right? But even in Punk Hazard, right? Having reread
Mhm.
that, I sort of look at that and I'm like, yo, no cap. Virgo is probably taking all the Topiropo members except for Who's Who. Maybe even taking Who's Who to a high fight.
Okay.
Smoker versus the Topiropo members currently. I'm like, oof, he's probably beating all of them again except for Who's Who, and then it's a questionable fight. Even Caesar, like Caesar could have a hard time against people like Drake, um, and like he could have a hard time against some of the lower tier of them, but like
Mhm.
Caesar was strong enough to be able to dodge Luffy while Luffy was using Haki and stuff like that. So it's sort of like that band of that band of people in a Yonko crew, right? The people that aren't the
Mhm.
top three, but they're the next batch of strongest people after that top three,
Yeah.
right? I really actually sort of look at that and I go, that band is like six people roughly of just people in that 300 mil range. And if their bounty's higher than 300 mil, it's not necessarily that they're more threatening than someone at 300 mil. It's more so that it's like they've done more or had more importance. Because the more I look at it,
Mhm.
like that band, that bounty band is actually very, it's close knit. You know what I mean? Like
Yeah.
that even though we have Who's Who at like 550 and then Perisparrow at 700. I sort of look at that and I go, they're probably being overvalued, if anything, based on their importance in the story or their length of time in piracy and what they should be exposed to, as opposed to
Yeah.
an like and their connections, as opposed to an individual threat level necessarily. You know what I'm saying?
Mhm. Yeah, I mean, like, I can totally see people like Moria being like among those ranks. Like, even when we first met him,
Mm.
like
I mean,
Moria being among those ranks. I
like
don't know.
in a weird way, right? I see Moria getting low diff by Pooh, but I could see Moria absolutely shitting on Drake,
Yeah.
just like based on matchups. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Yeah.
So it's like those people in that 300 mil bounty range. It's like you probably have observation haki, or you have a fruit that's just really versatile, right? Like I mean, look at Hawkins. Like really,
Mhm.
he is gutter trash without that fruit. But with that fruit, and like his intellect and his manipulation, he becomes like one of the most impressive, like downright impressive people, making up for a lack of skill. If that
Yeah.
makes
Yeah.
sense. Hang
Yeah.
on, we've got a few comments here. So Sanji over his siblings with no raid suit. Sanji equals his siblings with the raid suit. Sanji with modifications is over his siblings with their raid suits. I kind of agree with that.
Mhm.
I hope Frankie would get his improvements unique from Sanji, even though I still think they are different. Sanji is biologically cyborg. Frankie is mechanically cyborg. Um, I wouldn't really call Sanji a cyborg, and I mean, Daniel, you might actually be able to say I'm crazy on this, but
Mhm.
realistically, the Germa's iron skin that's probably more along the lines of what Big Mum's natural skin is, as opposed
Yeah.
to being an actual metal. Like
I mean,
thinking
yeah.
about it.
I don't think it's an actual metal. I think it's like how they say Superman is a man of steel.
Mm.
How he can like deflect bullets.
And
I think it's just that it's really, really tough.
and because it
Yeah.
becomes denser and stronger, it acts like a metal when it gets hit. You know what I mean? Like it dents
Yeah.
and doesn't sponge out because it's an actual harder, denser sort of tissue. Um,
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
I love this comment though. Actually, Sanji will express more emotions now instead of having his emotions removed, so he'll get over expressive.
Hmm. It's interesting.
That would be a cool way to take it. If Sanji starts like really like amping up the gag of it, because then it would be
So I
very
don't know if you can. I don't know if you can do any more than almost bleeding to death from a nosebleed.
it's going the Ivankov route. You know, going the sensei route, just as like everything's just like a, you know what I mean?
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
And we've got one more comment. I think the flaw of the Beast Pirates is they overestimate their main abilities, that they do not focus on. other things like Haki. Do you know what? It's hard to say because we haven't seen them all go down yet, right? But we know all the top commanders of the Beast Pirates have armament observation, and they also fight with techniques and weapons more than anything. Realistically, they're probably the most technologically savvy crew we've seen.
Mm-hmm.
But it's sort of one of those things where it's like they have those things in their repertoire and they don't use them. Is it because they don't need them because they've got things that are better than it, or is it because complacency has left them not training it? So it's actually like a more of a bigger deal when they do use it. They can't do the Doflamingo turn your cheek into Haki last second to block a Gear 4 punch. Like for them to use Haki, it's like I have to look at my fist, activate my fist, and then I'm using Haki outside of Who's Who. You know what I mean? Because like Who's Who was naturally using Haki, but he's a six powers fighter.
Yeah, exactly. His abilities aren't like what general hockey is. It's like what six powers hockey in a sense.
Yeah.
It's like a different form. Yeah.
Like, I mean, it's questionable, right? It really is questionable how strong the Beast Pirates are. Because on one hand, I can look at it because I'm not underestimating the Straw Hats. The Straw Hats are ridiculous. The Straw Hats this is the first time they're really going all out since the time skip, and even arguably now, you could make the argument that they're not going all out just yet, because they won their matches. Yeah, they used some abilities that may have incapacitated them after, but like we had some fights where if it was start fresh, those people would have gone a lot better. Like Frankie versus Sasaki. Frankie didn't start fighting Sasaki until he was down to like his last barrel of cola.
Yeah.
So it's like,
yeah, that's true.
So it's definitely one of those things where it's just like, I don't want to downplay these characters because these characters have been so impressive and so entertaining. But it's like we are dealing with the Straw Hats here, and they did go away for 2 years and just, they were hitting the gym every day. They were putting in the hard yards. You know what I mean?
I mean, like Chopper fought Monster Point against Queen, and he's okay. Like obviously he's a little man, but like he's still able to do medicine and stuff like that.
Mm.
Frankie just lost his general. Frankie. Robin had to recover for a bit, but like Robin and Brooke are just like running around, and
Yep.
Brooke's just like taking out fodder right now. It's not like they're on the floor, unable to continue.
Yeah, 100%. And I mean, that could lead into the idea that the arc, like there's going to be another act, or the arc's going to have a lot more conflict going forward, even if we don't have another act, right? But it's like the Straw Hats are well worn here, but they're not out. And I mean, with the way this chapter ends, realistically, there's even more people now. Like we have the Straw Hats outside of Sanji and Zoro and Luffy free. I mean, we have Jinbei, a full-blown warlord, free to do conflict. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
We have Yamato free now to do conflict. You know what I mean?
True.
We have the Kid Pirates, including Killer now, ready to do more conflict if needed. Like
Killer's pretty clean.
Yeah. And I mean, like Killer would have done that fight a lot quicker if it was just that, if it wasn't for the fact that Killer was held hostage with Kid's life, that fight would have been done a lot quicker.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? And it's actually really impressive because I actually did the math on this and figured it out. So the Killer and Kid's bounty, Killer's bounty is only 200 mil, right? Kid's bounty is 470 mil, right? In the 2-year time skip, Killer only got a 40 mil increase, and Kid got 155 mil increase, right?
Yeah, right.
Do you know what those increases, like, we don't know what they were, we don't know what they were for, but do you know the only feat we have for them in the time skip? They came to the New World, fought some fodder, and found an island and took over an island. Then they got those bounties, right? And then canonically, since the beginning of the time skip, right, it was about 2 weeks from where Kid had fought the Big Mum Pirates, meaning if it was only about 2 weeks from Kid fighting the Big Mum Pirates, he only lost his arm within a like no one would have seen him outside of having fought Shanks between fighting Shanks's crew and then coming out of the Big Mum pirate conflict. So arguably, you know, double it again. So maybe a month ago, Kid lost his arm. You know what I mean?
Yep.
So it's like it was literally like in the last 2 months, because like we've now sort of had a month in canon time since the time skip, right? In the last 2 months, Kid has gone from having done nothing for 2 years to fighting the Red Hair Pirates, losing an arm, injuring a sweet commander, getting a smear campaigns put out against him saying that the Big Mum Pirates took his arm. Then he decides to make an alliance to go assassinate Shanks. Kaido drops in on him, and him and Killer fight Kaido until they, go down from exhaustion.
Mm-hmm.
Specifically, they were told that they went down from exhaustion, right? So it's like
Yeah.
Kid and Killer's bounties are they're like Luffy's pre-time skip bounties. They are not an indicator of like where they would be in the slightest because they
Yeah.
hadn't
Yeah.
done anything. You know what I mean? There's like you can't evaluate them anywhere because they haven't done anything to warrant like a bigger increase. But it's like they're even where they are currently, like Killer, severely underrated. You got to think he just low diffed someone with a 320 mil bounty,
Mm-hmm.
and he's at 200 mil. You know what I mean? It's like he's clearly mid. Like at this point in time, Killer's probably over Bonnie, Arouge, uh, he's beating Hawkins, a Pooh probably, and probably Drake too. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah. I mean, we need to see more from Drake, but yeah,
I mean,
potentially.
like the only reason I say that is like at this point in time, Drake was like shook that Zoro caught a Pooh off guard and did like a near fatal blow. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Yeah.
But it's like that's no different to what Killer did this chapter to someone of a roughly same level of threat.
Mm-hmm.
So it's like we've really been getting like the showcase that like Killer and Zoro are very similar. Zoro's definitely a bit better with the swords because Killer fights with music and noise as well as like cutting. You know what I mean? But it's like,
Yeah. Yeah.
dude, it's just been crazy. Like it is straight up just been crazy at the moment. All right, we've got another comment. They're strong, but they do not expect their Straw Hats to be a match up, so they lower their guards. Does it mean that if they're in the New World for 2 years, they didn't grow exponentially, unlike Luffy? I mean, Luffy. Do you know what you got to look at it, right? The Supernova went to the New World, except for Law and Luffy. All the Supernova went to the New World straight away, right?
Yeah.
Now, out of the Supernova that went to the New World, we know that Capone ended up joining up with Big Mum, right?
Mm-hmm.
And all the others uh, stayed independent for a while. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Yeah.
Um, you got to look at it and think of it like schooling, right? If you're going to uni and you're doing four courses, right? You have a full palette, and you're doing that over the course of 2 years, right? Trying to learn
Yeah.
like heaps of different subjects. Luffy got tutored in two subjects for 2 years instead of just going to a generic class, right? Came
Mm-hmm.
out pretty well equal in knowledge with those people because he just knew the content better, right? And now that he's been put in the same situations as them, where their big thing was learning Haki to begin with and just having the fact that they've got armament and observation Haki full stop, Luffy had been tutored, developed that, and now instead of him just going, "Oh, I need to use those abilities," he's going, "I understand the basics. How can I use the basics to amplify them past where they are, so I can overwhelm other people's versions of it?" You know what I mean?
Yeah. I mean,
And
when you think about Luffy, there's not many ways that he could have done much more to
mm,
get stronger than what he is right now. Like he got personally trained for 2 years straight, and then he went out and he beat
I,
Doflamingo. he invaded Big Mom's territory and beat Katakuri. It's like he's literally done
Like,
more hardcore fighting than anyone could have done.
yeah. And I mean, that being said, it's like it's impressive enough how well the others, based on just raw talent, have kept up with him.
Mhm.
Like
That's why, like, part of me sees Kid being like, "Oh, I'm gonna take down a Yonko," when like we're questioning if Luffy can even do it, and I'm
yeah.
just like, I hope he can't. To be
I mean,
honest,
I
because
I
yeah,
would love for Kid to take down Big Mom in a one-on-one situation. I'd love for Law to get like taken out of the equation because he's just not able to
Mhm.
keep up on the same level, and Kid just go ham and do stuff because he's shown to be able to do significant sort of work, right? But I want it to be a lot harder for Kid to do that than it is for Luffy. Like Luffy right now, like to put it in perspective, out of the monster trio, the only one that hasn't surpassed their mentor is Zoro.
yeah.
That
You
like
think Luffy is surpassed Rayleigh? I mean, yeah, I
with
guess now, yeah,
with
true.
the fact that Rayleigh doesn't have future sight, and as far as we know,
Yeah,
doesn't have advanced conquerors. At this
yeah,
point in time, Rayleigh has basic conquerors. He has high tier basic observation haki, and he's got advanced armament. At this point in time, Luffy has two more things and a devil fruit on top of it. I'm not saying it would be an easy wash, but at this point in time, Luffy's fighting the captains. Like Luffy's fighting the Rogers, not the Rayleighs.
yeah, yeah, yeah.
So it's like it's happened. And I mean, with the modifications now that Sanji's just developed, I see that being more impressive than Ivankov. Really, like Ivankov is severely underrated and crapped on consistently, right? But Ivankov also is like very limited. Like, does Ivankov have a single W in the story?
I mean, the thing is that like the only thing that Ivankov has seemingly has is the death wink. And so when you think about could Ivankov beat this person, it's like, oh, could that person tank a few death winks?
Hmm.
Because the thing is, like, it's hard to recognize. Obviously, she took a punch to the face by Akainu. It's pretty insane.
See,
But I don't know. It's hard to scale that because you haven't seen a
Ivankov
large repertoire.
Ivankov doesn't seem to be someone that really overpowers people. Ivankov seems to be someone that actually will use his ability to weaken an opponent and then beat them. You know what I mean?
Hmm.
Like he would turn, like, say he caught Smoker off guard, turn Smoker into a woman, and because anime logic, a woman's weaker than a man, and so all of a sudden the Death Wings are doing more damage.
Yeah,
That
yeah,
that is how Ivankov seems to fight. You know what I mean? Plus,
yeah.
he's a karate based fighter as well, right? Everyone we've seen him go up against has been someone that's a low, like someone that has a substance that causes damage on impact. So it's like terrible showcasing for him. But like
Hmm.
at this point in time, I think Sanji's doing more impressive. I mean, do you see Ivankov beating Queen? It's a close fight,
No.
but I kind of see Queen taking that win. Because I kind of
Hmm.
think the point of the Revolutionary Army is all their abilities on their own are like okay, but not great. But together, they all just boost each other stat wise. You know what I
Hmm.
mean? It's like a play all these people in the field and you get plus 20 to all stats, which is crazy,
Yeah.
but it's how I feel. Um, Here we go. O'Hara made a video about Zoro already knew Wano since he was a child, and that's the reason why he wanted to be the strongest swordsman to free Wano. I don't think he wanted to free Wano necessarily, because I don't think he actually would have been aware of that, but he definitely know what Wano was, because I'm pretty sure there was never an instance where Zoro knew that Ryuma was from Wano at first. You know what I mean? Like, I don't think there was ever a moment where someone directly told him. You know what I mean? And then
Okay.
in Punk Hazard as well, I think he identified the word samurai, right? He identified Kinemon as, oh, I'm a samurai. And then Zoro initially just goes, I really want to see what someone from the land of Wano can do. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
So, like, I think Zoro definitely knew of Wano, but not necessarily what was going on in Wano. You know what I mean? It's like, it's no different to how, like, a kid growing up would be told stories of, like, an island made of candy or an island in the sky. You know what I mean?
Right, right.
What of Oda will.
I mean, like at the end of the day, I think like even if Zoro knew what the like what Wano was or anything, that can't be the reason why he wanted to be the world's greatest swordsman. It's like integral to his entire backstory
Yep.
that the reason that he wants to be the world's greatest swordsman is because of Kuina, because she wanted to, and then she died, and then he got her sword, and then he said, "I'm going to take on,
I
I'm
mean,
going to do what you
it
like." It's
was.
his entire backstory is why he wants
It.
to be
Yeah.
the world's greatest
Well,
swordsman.
essentially, what had happened was like he wanted to be the world's best swordsman. She wanted to be the world's best swordsman, right? Because they lived in a town where they trained in the sword. There's literally
Yeah,
nothing else to do with your life than say, "I want to be the best," and it's a kid's
yeah.
dream, and that's what you do, right?
And then
Her
she
dying,
died, and he took up the sword and said, "Yeah, I'm going to do this for you." And then that was like it. It's like very yeah.
it's yeah. I don't think there needs to be more context of it, and sometimes the simpler story is better. You know what I
Mhm.
mean? Like, I don't think Queen is ever going to come back alive. I think, like, just definitively, unfortunately, a little girl fell down the stairs and passed away. You know what I mean?
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
It's just, sometimes that's all there is to it. Um, what if Oda will swing the story in a way where Sanji expresses more emotion? He will unknowingly master an Okama Kempo technique. Okama Kempo is a much more expressive fighting style. Um, it would be
Mm.
interesting.
I
Um,
actually do want to see him start bringing out those techniques because that was his entire training arc in the 2 years was that he was running around fighting all the different masters of the different recipes, right, to get all the
yeah,
different recipes and stuff. So like it wouldn't like me what I expected was every person who held a recipe also holds like a different sort of Okama
style.
technique.
Yeah.
And then yeah, and then he would basically have to like learn that style to defeat them and then learn the recipe. And it was like, it's supposed to be him learning the recipes,
Um,
but really it's him learning how to fight. And then
I'll have
yeah.
to. I'd have to look up specifically what it is. I should know it because I've just gone reread it. I think it's his Polar Spectre. I'll just look that up. But he's got an attack where he does projectile kicks.
Right.
He does it against the Iron Division, the Iron Shield Division of the Fishmen, right?
Okay.
Where he's like up in the air and he's just spinning around kicking, and it looks like his kicks are like extending 30 meters and breaking raw steel and crushing people's arms and stuff like that.
And
And see, one thing that I've always thought would be really interesting and good of Sanji's fighting style is if what he learned from the Yokohamas, more specifically from like being in Ivankov's sort of vicinity, is instead of a death wing, he's got a death kick, where he does the same sort of explosive power of a death wing, but just kicks.
yeah, right.
So it's like he's got some projectile based kicks. And then with the Lunarian DNA, imagine if he could add some fire on that so he could shoot out fireballs.
Yeah, that'd be pretty sick.
Um, got to look that up.
I've always had an issue with fire in fantasy because it's always like people always have fire as an explosion. It's like if I can shoot fire at you, I can explode you. But realistically, fire doesn't have that much like weight to it,
Mm-hmm.
and like people don't cue in enough to the burning aspect of fire.
Oh, especially since like people really don't understand this, right?
Mm.
Sanji's most important, like Sanji's entire um, threatening combatability of Diablo Jumbe comes from the
Mhm.
burning.
Yeah,
It's not just a stronger kick and a faster kick. Like when he kicked Jabra, right?
yeah.
Um, I'm pretty sure Jabra used Iron Body to block, right?
Hmm.
And he said, even through my iron body, I can feel my insides burning out.
Yeah.
And like the biggest thing is like Sanji's been able to like set people ablaze like crazy with his kicks, right? But you got to think like Sanji's kicks are like getting a red hawk over and over and over and over. You know what I mean? Like
Yeah. Yeah.
the thing I'd love to see here is when Sanji gets the confidence and starts fighting Queen, right? He's doing those grill shots, and he's only done like a couple of hits in Diablo Jambay that have like hit Queen and burnt him, right?
Yeah.
But I want to see that damage stacking and fatiguing, and Queen sort of going, man, if I wasn't made of a robot, my organs would be toast right now.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
I,
Just I always think about like the dragons in Game of Thrones, how they'll like breathe fire and blow down an entire like stone wall, like a multiple meter thick stone wall. They just breathe fire at it and the whole thing just collapses. It's like that's
that's
not how fire works, bro.
that's like Ace
And
having.
it doesn't, it's not that it melts either, it's that it like blows away like from force. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
It
no,
explodes away.
it's
Yeah.
having weight behind the fire. It's like a
Yeah,
straight up
exactly.
explosion. Um, the Hell's Memory is a projectile technique which uses expressive anger. Maybe it's a newcomer technique, renamed just like Skywalk or Blue Oil. True, that is a good point. That is definitely a good point. Um,
Yeah.
that being said, I love talking about Sanji. He's one of my favorite characters. But let's move on to the big mum kid war shit because there was there is some impressive shit here that might go under the radar. You know what I mean? Like,
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
oh, oh no, stream's cut out for a second. Oh, it's come back now. I hate it. Every now and then it just says no data. I'm like, that's not right. And then I'll click on it, and then all of a sudden it's got excellent condition for streaming. It's just like, you lied to me. You lied to me. Um, so first things first, kid's injured as anything, right? Kid has been beat pretty badly, not just from Big Mum and taking multiple hits from Big Mum, but from Hawkins, as we find out later, right? Can we just take a
Mm-hmm.
moment to just like Big Mum, agile as hell, does a spinning front flip slash with Hera and Napoleon point blank on Kid, and it does no significant damage to the guy. That is that is actually noteworthy. You know what I mean? Like to me, this sort of attack is not much different. It's sort of like a half mix between Cognac when Big Mum sliced Jimbei off the Sunny and that massive bolt of lightning. Oh,
Yeah.
hang on one second. We're having a bit of issue with the
Internet.
stream. Yeah, hang on 2 seconds. Just go for a little brief intermission. we're back. Daniel, check your volume again.
Hello, hello.
Alright, we should be good there. Sorry. Internet was running wild. Too many thousand devices connected at once causing issues. But we're back now. And we've gotten a few more comments. So, Big Mom is agile like Jinbei. Yes, the big people in One Piece are surprisingly agile these days. Napoleon's blade became rusty. I don't know. I'd still say Napoleon's as good as he ever is. Like, I don't think weapons get damaged too often in One Piece. They don't get wear damage. Like, they don't decrease in like potency like that. Especially Yonko weapons, I don't think. I think Law used shambles to get Kid out of the way since he was next to him. I mean, I would say yes, except for the fact that Law got cleaned out by a giant thing of fire. And I think, if anything, Law's just lucky to not be burnt to a crisp right now.
Yeah.
I
have no idea how the hell he got out of that situation.
Well, in all honesty, I see it as Law got hit by the fire, right? You see his arms out in front and the ball of fire goes around him. So I could see, arguably, that he has made a little bit of a room, right? And is just, diverting the fire around him. Since we know he's got some defensive abilities. Considering nothing of his got burned or charred or anything, we don't see any smoke coming off him, right?
Yeah.
But Kid 100% got hit. And the reason I say 100% got hit is you can see the smoke coming off Kid. He point blank just got clocked on the head by that attack.
True.
So there's definitely some stuff to go there. And I mean, Kid gets up and he's he's done. He's hurt. And that hurt him something fierce.
Yeah. But then at the end of the chapter, he's like, yeah, I feel great.
So, okay. So, did you pick up on why he feels great at the end of the chapter?
No.
So, we'll jump to this now, right? So, obviously, after Kid gets up here from being a bit injured, we find out part of the injury is coming from Hawkins sabotaging, right? And then we have the whole Kid and... we have the whole Killer Hawkins conflict, right? You know the card Hawkins pulls at the end, the tower?
Yeah.
It was... the card was, finding a new path. And, it has a few meanings. We'll go down and see what the meanings are. I'll read them out. Because it'll just make it easier. The Tower card signifies great change and upheaval of the established order. Its hidden meaning indicates the opening of a new path. What I'm pretty sure actually happened is the Tower card actually was an effect that Hawkins didn't mean to use that boosted Kid's stats.
Right.
So,
okay.
So you know how Hawkins, at the beginning of the arc, pulled out, the card of betrayal, and then all of a sudden, two of his men started stabbing each other, and they're like, what the hell's going on?
Yeah.
I think this is one of those cards where it's Hawkins pulled it, and that's what resulted immediately in him getting jacked, and also giving Kid a boost. So now Kid is powered up past full health, going to fight Big Mom regardless of any damage that he's taken now.
Okay, that's good. Because, see, originally when Kid was like, oh, something's going on with my head, I thought, okay, this is good. This will give Kid a reason to actually win this fight. If he has some, great awakening of power, that's, pretty interesting. And then when I found out that it was just him because
Hawkins.
his name was hitting his head against the wall, I was like, oh, okay.
So
how is Kid going to win?
So the question is now, how useful is that Tower card? The Tower. And, what other effects is it going to do, right? Because I say it healed him, but it might not necessarily do that. But with having that card pulled now, and the fact that it's, part of the card was an upheaval, you know what I mean? An against the odds sort of card, right?
Yeah.
Could Kid have been the guy that only had a 1% chance of surviving? But now, because of this card, that 1% chance of survival, he's going to beat the odds. More specifically, that card is giving him the last-minute arse pull boost that he's going to need to help, get the XP going, to level up his Haki and actually fight Big Mom.
Yeah.
Because I see it at the biggest cliffhanger with Hawkins, realistically, was the beginning of the arc. We were talking about Hawkins having a card that made him leaps and bounds beyond his normal capabilities, right? We never got to see it used. I'm not saying this is that card, but I'm saying this might be that card in the opposite effect. You know what I mean?
Yeah, okay.
So it's just like he's done himself dirty here, but it's going to work better for us because it's going to give us a massive boost going forward in the arc. What are your thoughts on
Yeah.
that?
Well, here's the thing, right? He's saying like oh, the tower signifies great change and stuff. As soon as he drew it, he was like shook. He was like, "Oh my god, I got the tower!" Like it seems like that card is seemingly like very rare for him to pull out,
Mm-hmm.
and like it has a lot of power. It is possible that that card has like, a great amount of power to it.
I mean,
Because I mean, he has like his whole power is like I can basically dictate fate itself,
yeah.
but I can't like choose how to do that. So like I would totally understand his power, his devil fruit ability having the potential to be completely broken.
So,
It's just that he can't control it at all. So
so the chat's saying at the moment, the card is a trump card. Hawkins mentioned at the beginning of Wano, like I said. Hawkins said at the beginning of Wino that he has a card that boosts a person's power. Do you know what? What if it actually is the card that boosts the power, but he normally hopes to pull it when he's at a disadvantage because it means he'll win? Whoever's
yeah,
disadvantage becomes the winner.
yeah,
Seeing as how Kid was at a severe disadvantage, all of a sudden, Kid becomes the winner. Winner, winner, chicken dinner.
yeah.
Um, it could be
Okay,
interesting.
I mean that's good. That's good for me because like it doesn't feel undeserved because Killer like had to go through a lot and had to play it really well to give Kid that power up. And if Kid uses that power up to like take down Big Mom in like a really close fight, I'd be satisfied with that.
Hmm. And it would actually make it would bring Kid and Killer back into the fold of an actual rival for the Straw Hats in some capacity.
Yeah.
I mean,
Although, is the power boost going to be permanent?
no, I reckon it's just for this conflict, but I think the power boost itself will help him unlock stuff permanently.
Yeah, because like I can kind of see Kid being like, let's say like after the series is over, um, eventually becoming like a Yonko level
Yeah.
pirate. Um, but I don't necessarily know if he's going to be like Yonko level in this series, like in yeah before the series
See,
is over.
I
I just can't imagine like obviously like Luffy is an exception. Luffy is like
yeah.
godlike, right? Whereas I can't really see other people unless they have like a really well explained reason becoming that insane. Because I mean he was a rookie, you know, with Luffy.
For
How are you going to
Luffy,
see that level of growth?
so I think it entirely comes down to how many people are revealed to be Yonko level. If I'm right and the Admirals are as strong as the Yonko, but then there's an explosion of other people like in that's like that same level of strength, and there's more people we don't know and haven't been introduced to yet that are of that level of strength. The
Mhm.
more people that we get in that threshold, the more likely I think we'll see some of Luffy's rivals be in that threshold in the story, right?
Okay.
If it's a
Yeah.
limited number of people and a limited pool, I only see it in like a flash forward 10 years later.
Yeah. Okay.
And I think the reason the reason I say that, right, is because every arc we're upscaling the villains to some degree, but the villains we're upscaling to like the ceiling is a pretty like it's a wide ceiling. You know what I mean? There are
Mhm.
people on that level and for different reasons. Like we we as a group, right? One Piece fans treat certain people like gods, right? Like the Yonko god level. Some people are like the Admirals are god level, right? But it's like
Yeah.
Katakuri has future sight. But we've been told there's more than one person in the world with future sight. We're
Yeah.
gonna see these people. You know what I mean? We're gonna see
Mhm.
some strong people. The series is coming to a close, yeah, but with how strong people like we're still gonna get more strong people. That's all I'm saying. Like, we're gonna get, we're gonna continue to peak the story. It's not gonna be all downhill, weaker characters from here in the story. You know what
I
I
mean,
mean?
in all honesty, I kind of see a lot of the people at Future Sight being like top level CB0
Yeah, I could say
members.
that. Could you imagine how
It's
crazy
insane.
it would be if someone like uh Rob Lucci had Future Sight?
Yeah, that'd be pretty cool.
I mean, like just someone that has the ability to do projectile attacks having Future Sight would be like almost as efficient as Katakuri in DC. Really,
Yeah.
and it would be entertaining. Um, that
I know
being,
I say this a lot, but I really want to have all of One Piece finished and in color and just read through it.
uh,
It'll be so good.
like I said, I'm just doing my big reread through now. I'm about to start Dressrosa, right?
Mm.
Do you know how, like, and I know I messaged you about this earlier, but we haven't really talked about it. The insane amount of setup of different plot lines involving different technologies that Vegapunk is related to has me so terrified for the potential of what SSG could be. Because if it's not a new invention and it's just a combination of past inventions, that is so broken.
Yeah.
Like, he can recreate an admiral's lasers, right? He can clone people. He can make people cyborgs, right? He has the same level of genetic manipulation that the Vinsmoke have, and on a biological level, the same level, actually greater, of genetic manipulation than Caesar had. He can make perfect smiles. He can make perfect gas-based weapons, right? We've seen him be able to
Mhm.
create things that fly. We've seen him be able to modify animals. Like, the only thing that we know that he's been trying to do that he hasn't done yet is successfully gigantify people.
That is true. Yeah. It is pretty interesting, like the idea that like someone who's that smart and that like potentially powerful, I, you can't imagine they're just sort of he's just sort of like living in fear under the world government. You know, he's got
Mm-hmm.
to have some kind of secret hidden plan that he's working
I
towards.
mean, in all honesty, him being a part of the world government, like a lot of people think that maybe he's like an inside man for the revolutionaries, right? But it
Yeah.
could quite literally be he's in the perfect, like he's in the perfect position to be in. He's got the celestial dragons backing him
Yeah.
monetarily. You know what I mean? He can literally
Yeah.
make whatever the hell he wants, whenever the hell he wants, with as much or as little ease as he needs. You know what I mean? Like he
Yeah.
literally, he literally, as a pet project for the celestial dragons, made living, breathing dragons,
True.
and like, just think of that. He can actually make a mythical creature from scratch genetically. Like
Yeah. He's got it all figured out.
like and again, like there's so many different wild theories and stuff like that. Like, do you remember that scene where Sanji starts clashing with Virgo and Sanji kicks Virgo through a wall, and Virgo just like gets out of the wall, and there's like metal noises like crack, creak, crack as he gets out the wall, and Virgo's
Yeah. Yeah.
completely fine, and Sanji goes, "What the hell is your skin made of metal?" For all we know, Vegapunk's done the same modifications that the Vinsmokes have gone through and just started rolling it out to vice admirals. Like, just think of that. Like, the genetic manipulation that went into a Vinsmoke dulled down a little bit and then just thrown out in hordes for the Marines.
Hmm.
Like, there is so much potential, terrifying growth for Vegapunk to just, like, absolutely scumbag the entire world. Like, by helping the world government.
So, do you think he's a villain?
I used to think that he was working for the Revs, but realistically, I think he he doesn't have an agenda. He just creates, right? You can argue he doesn't want to make creations that just hurt people, but he's not
Hmm.
opposed to doing it. Like he called Momo's fruit a failure, right? Which is
Hmm.
essentially he made dragons, living, breathing dragons, then figured out a way to turn that into a devil fruit for people to eat, so people can become a living, breathing dragon. And then when it's a failure, don't let anyone have it.
Mhm.
But at the same point in time, he makes pacifistas that literally just walk through an island obliterating pirates. And yeah, pirates are criminals, so you could see that as like a good deed. But it's sort of like he really like he's a jack of all trades. He just does all sorts of crazy stuff. I just think honestly, he's just a curious person. We've never really had someone in the series that was just blatantly only curious.
Yeah,
You know what I mean?
true. That's true. I think it'll make a really cool twist if after this the word gets out that Momo's fruit is real, and then that like basically that Vegapunk betrayed the world government, and then Lucci is actually kind of has had like a change of heart, and he takes Vegapunk and escapes and like comes to Luffy and like
Ooh.
basically saves him. That'd be pretty cool to like see Lucci kind of start redeeming himself. Because like realistically, everything that he did was just following orders for the side that he was on, right?
Yes, but he
And
also took a
he
level of
did have
pleasure
that
in it.
yeah he did have that dialogue about how he just loves to kill and stuff, which is pretty brutal.
I mean, interestingly enough, with Lucci, he's the only villain that hasn't had some kind of change of heart after Luffy beat them.
Yeah, 'cause right now he does seem like just like a cold-hearted killer. Like at the Reverie, was it the Reverie,
Yeah,
and he got told to like kill that
and
or
he was
he was like,
happy. He
yeah,
was
cool.
happy. He's like, yeah,
Yeah, he
fuck it,
was
I mean,
like
I'll kill.
excited.
I got a license to kill. I ain't on my P's anymore. I'm out here just giving finger pistols to people.
It's pretty refreshing. I was actually talking to a client about this today because we're talking about Marvel movies, and like it's kind of refreshing when you see a villain who's just like basic, who's just evil.
Yeah,
Because so many times people will try to like morally justify the villain. So you're like, oh, I could understand his background, but it's like realistically, in real life, like a lot of like the evil people are just like psychopaths and just like mass murderers, and they just enjoy killing, and it's like just crazy evil.
Rob Lucci is that one guy from Rick and Morty that's just I just like killing people.
Yeah.
I just really love the trait of killing people. You know what I mean? Um, but yeah, no. Yeah, I 100% get what you mean, and I actually really love it because that's the only that's one of the redeeming qualities for Lucci for me because One Piece is an entire story of no one's really the bad guy. Everyone's doing stuff because they believe it's what's right, and everyone's got their own agendas. You know what I mean? One
Mhm.
Piece is a series of your life justifies your actions.
Mhm. But I mean, like when you
Rob,
think about it, someone like Big Mom or Kaido, it's like you grow up and it's like everyone that's around you, you could just strangle with one hand.
mhm.
Well, that powerful, everyone looks up to you, and then everyone tells you like, yeah, if you want to, you can probably just have whatever you want.
Big,
Like you can just take over the world because you're ridiculously strong. You just be like, cool, I'll do that then.
well, I mean that's
Not
Big
a
Mum's
little while,
character,
sure.
isn't it? She's a child.
Yeah.
She's 68 years old and she still has tantrums over food, right?
And that's kind of how I imagine Kaido. He's just like a warrior, and he's just like, I just love fighting, and like I'm gonna beat everybody, and
Mm.
I'm gonna be the strongest, and that's it.
And I mean that's even the Marines really to an extent, right? Like you've got
Yeah.
Akainu that's just I just want to overthrow the established order and make it right. You've got Kizaru is just like I just want to follow orders. My orders are to kill pirates or capture pirates. He's just really efficient at doing it. Aokiji used to be like Akainu, but then when Akainu did collateral damage, Aokiji did a full 180, and that's why Aokiji's just gone on the route of just like maybe we've got to go into the dark depths of the world to be, morally just.
Yeah.
So it's like I love Lucci because Lucci just seems to be the dude that's just like I just want to kill people. This
Mhm.
job, this job just helps me fuel my hobby. It just allows me to legally kill people. I just want to kill
I
people
mean,
though.
yeah, like realistically, like if you just want to kill people, you've basically got two choices. You can become a pirate, in which case you've got to fight in the mud and the dirt, or you can join either the Navy or the CP agencies, and you just get to stay in a clean, nice environment and just do your little missions and kill people.
Mm. And I
It's
mean,
such a better life for a murderer.
not just a better life, like just like the training's hard, yeah, and the missions are hard and they're dangerous, but it's like, look at what you get for it, right? By joining the
Yeah.
Marines, you get specialized training to be able to unlock superhuman abilities, as opposed to just being like a 1 in a million genetic lucky genius that doesn't get killed
Yeah, it
while they're
doesn't get
weak.
killed and happens to unlock it. Yeah.
Like, really, that's
We
like,
literally call the Grand Line the pirate graveyard, and at the point right in the story, we like scoff at the Grand Line. Like it's
yeah. Well,
awesome.
I mean, at this point in time, we literally saw bobbins, thrifty bobbins, the dude that just
Mm.
literally wiping out islands. That's like, dude,
It's funny to think that like the normal people in One Piece are just like genuinely normal people.
yeah.
Like a rock would hurt them, whereas Luffy has been shattering rocks since episode 1.
hmm I mean, that's actually what made me like Fishman Island on my reread through, right? The fact that Horty's shoveling down those steroids, but each steroid individually doubles your strength. And if you've
Yeah,
already doubled your strength, having another one doubles it again, right?
yeah, yeah.
And like
He's already a
and
fishman as
and
well.
and he and Horty addresses that, right? So he's shoveling down. So he's getting like to the power of 1,000 times stronger with how many steroids he eats. And Luffy still kicks this man through a wall, like a giant plateau, and he gets up and it's like, what the shit, man? Like that's like having someone that's in the UFC double their strength, double their strength, double their strength, double their strength, double their strength. It's like it's showing you what a normal person would be to a post time skip Luffy that just has haki. And it's just
Yeah,
like, dude, you still get thrown through a wall. Like you get
yeah,
you just get dragged through the earth like you're nothing.
yeah. People don't recognize how ridiculous that is. I was thinking about because I've been watching Seven Deadly Sins. I'm like pretty far through it where they're all just kind of like ridiculous. It's just like the power just gets ridiculous. And I'm like, I still don't even know if any of them could beat Luffy.
Dude, at this point in
He's
time,
just a
Haw-
machine.
Hawkins with a weekend head start beats Meliodas. Counters full counter.
Yeah.
If he got a dole in on Meliodas, anytime Meliodas does a counter to an attack, all of a sudden it's just like doubling back around on him, except he can't block it, and he's just like, what the shit is starts doing more damage to Hawks. It's just like, ow, what? He full countered my full counter with a full counter. Who said you could do this? Who gave you the right? Um, all right, we should keep going though with the chapter. We'll pump through a bit more of this. So Hawkins is headbutting a wall, and if you notice, Killer's mask is cracked. So I'm assuming where we last left off when Killer found out that Hawkins had Kid's fruit, that Hawkins headbutted Killer, breaking the mask. And then when Killer was on the ground, started headbutting the wall to be like, ha ha, look what I'm doing. You know what I mean?
Right, right.
Interestingly enough, um, we see some of the Kid crew here. None of them are notable people that we've seen before. So it's no Heat, no Wire, and I'm still holding out for the dude with the mohawk with the John Lennon glasses. You have no idea how badly I want to see that guy get named. But we've got Kids crew here, all wearing their fishnet stockings because, yes, reasons. um, Killer just doesn't explain to them what's going on, and then just starts getting the living shit kicked out of him. And Killer is like bleeding here. He's just getting like he's not defending at all, right?
Yeah.
And Hawkins just goes on his full like Hawkins is projecting here, isn't he? He's going on his full rant where he's just like, the only options are to join the Yonko. They're too powerful. Why can you be so dumb to think that you could ever beat them? And like, Killer sort of claps back. It's like, you just wish you had the guts to.
Yeah, literally.
But it is crazy here because first things first, right?
Hmm?
Killer taking Hawkins' arm caught me off guard. Like, I know we predicted this a long time ago, but like, Hawkins did a bad gamble here, didn't
Hmm.
he? And I almost don't understand why this didn't work, right?
Yeah.
Because it still deflected the damage to Kid. It severed Kid's metal arm.
Really, I didn't notice.
You got the panel up, right? You can see
Where
it,
do you see that?
but it didn't divert the damage because there was no flesh to take the damage, so it like doubled back on Hawkins.
Okay, I see that. Yeah, it's a pretty small panel. Yeah.
Yeah, but you see what I mean, right? So it
Mhm.
it really was if Kid didn't have this one ability and actually had an arm to get cut here, like Hawkins like would have been fine, essentially.
Yeah.
Also, massive speed feat for Killer, having speed blitz pass. Like Killer is on he's on his knees here, right? And he just jets straight past, taking Hawkins' arm before Hawkins can just lunge his sword like a meter in front of him. Killer?
Yeah.
Killer low key, just low diffed Hawkins. And I
Yeah.
love
Seriously, it was so easy. He just stomped all over him.
I love, and I will ask the question to you, right? But I love how Hawkins literally looks at the bloody stump and he's like, "What? But this is One Piece. Who said you can take my arm?" And I also love, right? I also love the karma in this because Hawkins was a guy that was shitting on Law all arc, right? Being a dick to Law. I love how Hawkins goes down the same way the Kid got taken down by Dofi, getting his arm sliced clean. That just
Yeah.
feels like good good comeuppance. You know what I mean? And Hawkins feels every little tingle of it because he is crying like a bitch, and he's already one of those characters in the story that I think has just got no pain threshold because he's not a fighter. Like he has no pain threshold. He's if he has armament haki apparently, but I think his armament haki literally extends to him just doing a little more damage. He's not a defensive fighter. He's the biggest glass cannon in the story, I think.
Yeah.
But he gets jacked up, and it's interesting that there's still a doll, and that Hawkins is still connected to Kid. Because if you remember correctly, we did the analyst a few chapters ago, when Killer stabs Hawkins in the chest. It diverted the damage to Kid, and then the doll of Kid came out and died.
Yes. Yeah.
So that implies to me that there's a core doll, and any damage received that doesn't kill the individual makes the doll split off and pass the damage off, and that doll falls out. But that signifies a change of damage.
Right. Right.
So there is a way to counter it by getting the core doll like Killer did here. And I mean,
Yeah.
Killer's really lucky that the doll just happened to be in his arm.
Yeah.
But
It's weird how that. Yeah, I don't know how that works. I guess it just had to happen.
yeah, I actually in my live stream I was like I couldn't understand if this was a plot hole potentially that was just overlooked because it was just cool,
Mm.
but it there is some high tier trickery to look at mental hoops for this to make sense properly.
Yeah.
Definitely. I've got a comment here. I think the reason why Kid got his metal arm removed is somewhat like how Chopper could still transform his broken horn. Good point. Good point.
Mhm.
And then so Hawkins gets the card of annihilation, right? I kind of feel bad for Hawkins here because that card probably should have landed and did some damage. But Killer just and my wife cried laughing while I was doing my live reaction to this because do you know what I was screaming at the top of my lungs, Daniel?
Yeah.
Oh,
No idea.
it's straw. I don't know why I thought it would be more durable. It's just straw. It's freaking straw. Killer is literally a weed whacker. I don't know why I assumed this thing to have any form of ability to clash with Killer. It's one of those.
Yeah. True.
It actually makes no
Dark really
sense.
precise.
It makes no sense. You know what I mean? We're literally watching a man, taking out the crop. It had me in tears. I honestly, I was done for 15 minutes. Just
It's true.
it's
It looks
it's
so
straw.
epic.
Yeah,
Such a big clump of straw.
yeah, and it's dude, it did me dirty. And this is where actually another potential plot hole came to light in my mind, right? Killer cuts the head off this thing, but Hawkins's head doesn't get cut off. In the beginning of the Wano arc, when Zoro and Luffy are fighting Hawkins, Zoro cuts this thing in half, and then it cuts Hawkins in half, and then Hawkins has to sacrifice a doll to transfer it to someone else.
Is it this same thing?
Yes.
Ah.
But what I will say is when Zoro cut this thing and then damaged Hawkins, the thing, right? It got slashed but then like reformed together. Whereas here, it's decapitated and it falls down.
Right.
And it doesn't heal until Hawkins gets another card. So potentially, right, if Hawkins had another doll here, Hawkins could have diverted the damage to himself from the Scarecrow, cutting his own head off, and then divert that again to someone else. If that makes sense.
Yeah.
So it's like Kankuro from Naruto. You know how he fights with these puppets? Right? Yeah. It's like, if you damage the puppet, he can take the damage himself and divert it to someone else, so the puppet's fine almost. You know what I mean? Whereas here, like, he couldn't do that, so if he wants to use this Straw Man to attack, he's got to get a card that activates Straw Man.
Yeah.
Or at least that's how I think it works. Chat, tell me if you think I'm just crazy and like just going way off ham on this. He probably had a photo doll, probably. But then we get to the last page, and I have to ask a question: is Hawkins dead? Since the kid pirates are known for killing people.
I mean, yeah, I hope so.
I think this is a good place to end his character.
Yeah. I don't think he should come back. I mean, look, like he was cut upwards, kind of in the upper chest face area,
and is missing an arm.
Upper chest. True. I mean, but the thing is, like, his upper chest / face area is still kind of intact. So I guess he could not be dead, but at the same time, like, I'm happy for him to be dead.
I actually think it would be interesting, since no one's really been, like, no one dies often in One Piece. It'd be interesting to see the kid pirates finish people off.
Yeah.
Like, they're not afraid to be the group that actually does, like, they kill the person. You know what I mean?
I mean, his name is Killer.
I mean, they call him the Massacre Soldier.
Yeah.
Right? I know it is One Piece and people don't tend to die, right? But also, Oda only made the Supernova as filler to make Savity less boring, right? And we know that the Supernova have, like, blown up and become, like, this massive thing, and they're all connected now because Oda's good at planning like that, right? But I think naturally, for the Supernova that don't have a big plot, their story is to make other Supernova better now, right? So Hawkins was used to make Law, Zoro, Luffy, and Killer look good this arc. We got to see him clash so many times with so many people, but now, past this arc, his story is no longer relevant and he can die. I sort of see the same thing with Apu, right? Where Apu's been doing some cool stuff this arc. I could see him dying at the end of the arc, and it wouldn't hurt the story moving forward. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Whereas, like, other people, like people like Capone don't need to die because they can have more story, because their story is, like, they're a father now. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Bonnie hasn't had her story yet. Arouge has had a feat, but he hasn't had any story to him. You know what I mean? If Oda decides to ever use Arouge, he could do a story later on where he fleshes out the character. But it's like, once the character's been fleshed out and you see how they interact with people, if they don't have a drive or a motivation anymore, and Hawkins' only motivation and drive this arc was to just try and be on the winning side, and he picked wrong, there's no need for him past here. And even if he did survive, most likely CP0 is going to infiltrate the country and capture pretty much any pirate left on the island.
Yeah.
So, like, the only other good thing he could have done is, if he gets up and he's not dead, right? Say a fodder
Hmm.
soldier comes past and he makes a doll of them and then transfers the damage last second because anime logic, right?
Yeah.
Then he's all healed up. The only thing I could see him doing then that would be useful is he acknowledges he lost here. He acknowledges he was on the wrong side. To make up for it, he fights CP0 and the Big Mum Pirates as they try to leave Wano. He makes an opening for the Straw Hats to leave. Bon Clay style.
Yeah. I could see that.
But I don't think it's needed, you know what I mean? Like, there's an, like, already having just a kid pirate survive this arc would be able to fill that same role.
True. The more I think about it, the more I kind of want this to turn into a King of the Hill situation.
Yep.
Um, from the look at this, like I was saying with the previous thing with Sanji and Queen, I do kind of think it's possible that Sanji just sort of like figures out his powers, learns what he's capable of, and just takes that Queen. And that's kind of their fight. And then a
Yep.
similar thing happens with Zoro and King. And then like the fights kind of end pretty quick, you know. And then obviously Kaido and Luffy's battle has to be pretty epic and has to be fairly long. But then once that's over, like can kind of see a lot of this stuff to sort of just be a bit snappy because most of the pieces are in place. Most of the final, like, you know, right now we're in the final fights. And we saw all the Toby Roper go down in one chapter, so
I mean, in
I
all
could
honesty,
see, I could see this being wrapped up, this bit of Wano being wrapped up kind of soon, and start to have some more people come in.
yeah. So if there's a like, I know we get bored of talking about like the next act and that. I say the next act, but it honestly could just be this continues on, right? But what would
Mhm.
probably be like more entertaining for the story is for Luffy to become a Yonko. It can't just be he beats the Yonko here and then the world finds out after.
Mhm.
The first time Luffy beats a Yonko, I think like the government need to see it in some capacity, which is why I think CP0 being here is now going to be so important because imagine if, and narratively speaking, Luffy's the last fight always, right?
Mhm.
So what if all these people start winning and then the next person to win their fight is Kid and Law against Big Mom? Like after, all the other fights are done, right? It's like between Big Mum and Kaido's fight, right?
Yeah.
Kid Kid takes down Big Mum, and then that makes the world government go. All the calamities are down. All the Topiropo are down. The everyone's injured, weak, and fatigued, and one of the Yonko just went down. It doesn't matter if Kaido's still up now. Let's start an invade and take over. They start the invasion. All our allies that have weakened, but now have had a bit of time to heal up and rest, have
Mhm.
a fatigued fight in mass against the board government forces that are coming, just for the more important people, like the Rob Lucci's and stuff like that, to see Luffy take down Kaido with their own eyes. Like
Mhm.
they're having this massive war. Like it, it's like that scene in Lord of the Rings, right, where the tower, like where Sauron's tower falls. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah. Yeah.
It's like everyone's fighting down and around, and Luffy and Kaido are up in the sky, just having this epic battle off the heavens, and you see this just sparks of lightning lighting up the sky and that, and then all of a sudden Kaido comes flying down like Crocodile did in Alabasta, and he's on his back, he's KO'd, and he's done. And then everyone's sort of like looking on, just like no one expected a Yonko to go down, let alone two Yonko. The world government may have thought that, yeah, if we could take Kaido in a group attack, but it's like Luffy's there, takes down Kaido. All the allies are now emotionally boosted because they're like, we took down Kaido. He's stronger than any one of you. You know
Yeah.
what I mean? It's just a massive empowerment.
Yeah. True.
Um,
I can kind of
Alternatively,
see it. I think CP0 is giving a lot of credit to Kaido. They are basically saying like if Kaido goes down, we go in. Right, but as soon as like the fact that Kaido's up, we're not touching Wano.
yeah,
So like I kind of like the idea that even if Big Mom goes down, they're like it doesn't matter. Kaido will still wipe us out. Like I like the idea, even if it's not true. they have that he has that kind of reputation about him, because it'll just make it all the more epic if like Luffy wins.
Do you know what would be entertaining?
Hmm?
Uh, we haven't seen much of we haven't really seen Kid use Haki at all, right? But we know he has it.
Yeah.
It would be entertaining if a lot of people's theories are right and Kid awakens his fruit in this arc, where Luffy goes down the route of having just Haki at the moment.
Hmm.
And Kid can make non-magnetic things, like he can attract and repel non-magnetic things, and that's his awakening. Because we've seen him be able to lift up Big Mum with his metal at the moment, right? Imagine if he can just set an environment on someone, and it just caves in on them.
Mm.
Like everything nearby is just so attracted to that person that just houses, rubble, everything just charges in on them.
It'd be pretty intense.
And then imagine if he can like control where it is, so he can do that and then lift you up, and you're like stuck with stuff. Like that scene where Naruto versus Pain, when Naruto essentially becomes like a mini moon with Kurama, and he's just sucking up all the stuff to him.
Yeah, yeah.
It's just like that. That would be pretty badass. But
Hmm.
it's pretty crazy because now that the killer fight's done, I honestly thought that this fight probably would have been done closer. Like I thought we would have had this closer to Sanji or Zoro beating King or Queen, but like I think the next fight will be Raizo versus Fukurojuko. Um, but then it actually just after that it just comes down to the main 5 fights, doesn't it? Main 4 fights. So it's like, I mean, if we're only gonna have a 3 act like play, we're like what, 2 volumes away from the end of the arc.
Yeah.
Like,
I think I don't know if Sanji's going to be in next chapter. I think he's kind of going to get off screen a little bit, just sort of running away. Queen's chasing him, like that's what what's happening in the back of our head, and then we're going to jump around to some of the other fights. It's a good time to sort of pull away from that fight a little bit, because like okay, yeah, he's running away. Queen's chasing him. That's what's happening. They're just running away,
oh,
and
it's
then we
good.
can start thinking about, okay, what's happening with Zoro.
Yeah, it's good to delay that a bit. That being said, I just completely forgot what I was gonna say. I had something that was super like I was just like, that's the most important thing I can think. God deleted. Damn it! What the hell? I hate those moments. But yeah, like we might have more than 2 volumes worth because like the fights could be a bit more drawn out because we've got Luffy versus Kaido, Kid versus Big Mom with Law, the Zoro fights, the Saji fights. But I think the next person to go down is Raizo and Fukurojugo, right?
Yeah,
Like
I can see
that's probably the next major thing.
Yeah, to be honest, I kind of forgot about it. So it's been long enough. We
Um,
should
or
get back to it.
or we finally see a Pooh get taken down by Drake because I feel like that's something that we still need to cut to at some point.
Hmm.
Like like if there's no winner of that fight, I'm honestly gonna feel a little hard done by, just a bit,
Yeah.
because it's like you set it up, just show it, just give me a chapter of it, please. Um, Fukurojuko, then Orochi, then the Big Mum, then Kaido. Uh, mm, Honestly, if Orochi goes down, I see Orochi going down in the same chapter as filler, as like King and Queen around that same time. Because realistically, King and Queen, like Orochi's more of a main villain than King and Queen narratively, and I think Zoro has to have presence against Orochi when Orochi
I
dies.
kind of disagree. I feel like, yeah, I guess Zoro might need presence. I kind of feel like King and Queen need, or at least King needs a few chapters of content
Yes,
to like let the fight play out.
at least two
Whereas I think,
chapters for both of them.
yeah, whereas I think what's gonna happen with Orochi is like he's gonna make an entrance and then done in either the chapter that he makes the entrance or the one after it.
Yeah, see, I think
And then on the other side of things, I think he's already been out of the series for a few chapters. Like he hasn't shown up for a few chapters, so they can't leave it for too long because the
yeah,
viewers will sort of forget about him and not care when he comes back. You
yeah.
know, that's the issue
See,
with having a big war like this as like a writer is there are so many different characters, but you need to keep them all in the reader's minds. So you sort of have to cut between them all
uh,
the time, otherwise people will forget.
yeah,
And when they come back in, it's like you just don't care about them anymore because you've forgotten
which
they were even there.
which is why I think Zoro has to be present for the Orochi thing. Because Orochi is the villain of Wano. Kaido's the villain of the Yonko saga. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
Like,
yeah, yeah,
and Zoro expressed his personal desire to kill Orochi for Yasui's. He wants to avenge his uncle. You know what I mean?
yeah, yeah.
The interesting thing is, though, I think after King, he's really going to be too spent to do anything. But interestingly enough, we have adult Momo who could get his own sword, the that heaven sword.
Yeah.
And we have Zoro with Enma, and we had a mysterious Hiyori-looking character in silhouette show up to try and help the Scabbards one chapter and then completely disappear
Yeah,
with no explanation of who that character ever was.
yeah.
So I think what it could be is, you know, everyone goes down. Orochi has no allies with the Beast Pirates because of the betrayal. No ninja because they've either been killed or defected.
Hmm.
No hope of regaining any semblance from any citizen of Wano. And it has to be one of Odin's kids to finish him off. But I think both Momo and Hiyori are essentially students of Zoro in a way. You know what I mean? Zoro is the guiding force for them that will help them enact their vengeance.
I can kind of see that. I don't know if Zoro needs to take down Orochi.
So okay, he no, I'm not saying he's the one that does it, right? But I'm saying he will be present, and he will potentially hand off one of his swords to either Momo or Hiyori, and they will take his last head. And
Yeah, I can see that.
the reason I say that is because Zoro has a personal, in-depth connection with both Hiyori and Momo, right? He trained Momo with the sword and that, and has been kind to him, and they've been traveling, and he had his own plot line with Hiyori. But more importantly, Wano itself is one of those rare arcs where, or it's actually the only arc where Luffy wasn't the main character, really. Luffy's story in Wano wasn't Wano itself, it was Kaido and the Beast Pirates.
Yeah.
Since we got to the island, Luffy picked a fight with the Beast Pirates, fought Kaido, got beaten, got arrested, trained up, and now has come back to fight Kaido. Zoro? Zoro wandered the city. He was saving civilians, making friends with people, eating meals with starving individuals, protecting them. You know what I mean?
Hmm.
Wano really was, and it's fitting because it's the arc that Zoro gets Conqueror's Haki, because it's the only arc in the series where Zoro took front and center stage as a main character. You
Yeah.
know what I mean? Like he really had like the plot development of that, like of the story, and
Hmm.
even from him fighting Killer to protect Yori and Otoko. You know what I mean? So I think it's really fitting that because Orochi killed Yasui and he's got that connection with Hiyori and Momo, and he voiced the fact that he wants to kill Orochi himself, but Hiyori specifically said, if it was in my power, I would love to do it. I think
Yeah.
Zoro will be present as like, even in his weakened state, he can low diff Orochi, right? So I think he has to be present to stop Orochi hurting whoever it is, while the other person puts the blade in. Like
Yeah.
I honestly cannot see it happening any other way. And because of that, and because of the situation at the moment, the question becomes like, when does Orochi go down? Because one, no one sees Orochi, but like the plot point point with Orochi that I think a lot of people haven't necessarily thought of is he's been setting fires on Onigashima, right?
Mm-hmm.
And we know those fires are still spreading. uh, Yamato's trying to go defuse all the gunpowder on Onigashima because if it drops, it'll blow up. But what happens if the island doesn't drop and the fires spread to the gunpowder?
Okay.
Everyone's literally inside a giant bomb right now, and
True.
the time is lit.
True.
Right now, maybe he already can. Maybe Yamato can freeze the gunpowder and stop it blowing up. Right, but why did Oda have Orochi start setting fires?
Yeah, I'm not sure.
So it's like it's one of those things that's just been like an earworm sitting at the back of my mind. Where it's just sort of like more shit can happen. We don't like Oda always hits us with like the on the sideball that you didn't expect. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
That being said, I'm gonna go on a mad tangent here because obviously we've now seen how we've seen Killer do his shit. We're gonna see Kid do his shit. We've seen how massive leaps and bounds Zoro's been this arc, and I mean just look at Luffy and Law as well, being absolute goats. I have a filthy question for you.
Mm-hmm.
What do you think would be the harder fight? The rooftop 5 Supernova. So Luffy, Kid, Law, Killer, Zoro
Yeah.
versus Big Mum and Kaido. So like it's a fresh fight sort of thing. The 5 of them
Mm-hmm.
versus the 2 of them in one area without all this other extra shit going on. Or the
Mm-hmm.
5 of them fighting Akainu and Aokiji together. What's a tougher fight?
Wait, what was the? Who were they fighting on the first?
Big Mum and Kaido?
Or Akinu and Aokiji?
Yep. What's the tougher fight there? Because I've been thinking about this today, and I'm like, I'm kind of split on it. I'm not gonna lie.
I don't know. I mean, Karin Akinu.
If you wanted to,
Strong.
if you wanted to say pre-time skip Akainu, feel free to do that too. But you got to remember,
Pre-time skip. I think Kaido, Big Mom would be harder.
you got to remember, right? Aokiji just literally looks in their direction and just freezes so much of the ground, like thick ice. Like I'm just asking because it's like facing 2 Yonko is impossible. You know what I mean? But it's like, dude, facing 2 admirals as well is sort of and I'm talking in a situation where it's like they can just go all out. You know what I mean? It's not like they're trying to defend an island. That's a terrifying fight.
Yeah, definitely.
So you're landing on the Kaido and Big Mum for now. Chat, what about you? Who do you reckon would win that fight? Because I as scary as Big Mom and Kaido are, and as crazy versatile as they are, they're still they still have some reasonable limitations. You know what I mean? Whereas could you imagine the admirals just sending out like a wave of their element, and by the time you evade it with whatever crazy shit you got to do to evade it, there's just another one. It's
No, I just don't think it works out that way. If you
no.
get what I mean. If you think about it, it's like why doesn't Law just teleport at everyone and then just one shot them by chopping their head off? Like,
Oh, as we've seen, there's a threshold of haki that makes laws of powers unable to be used. So if someone's
yeah,
got haki to a certain level above him, he can't move them.
yeah, I mean, even still, teleport and then just stab them in the head. I don't know.
Fair.
It's just that, yeah, there are a lot of people that just have busted ridiculous powers, and it's just kind of have to sort of suspend that, I guess. 'Cause that's not how Oda would ever write it, you know.
I'd be keen for it. I'd be so keen to see that fight though. Because and the other reason I thought sort of think about it is because I was thinking to myself about the Green Bull and Fujitora versus the Revolutionaries and Bonnie,
Yeah.
and I was like, dude, what kind of crazy ass powers are they gonna have?
Because I mean, like for example, like Katakuri was fighting you and he's awakened. Why wouldn't he just turn the entire floor into mochi and then just randomly create like spikes from it?
I mean, he essentially does do that, doesn't he?
But that's the thing. He'll like turn part of the floor into mochi and then like attack you with it.
No, but
Like he could turn.
he turned the floor into mochi for Luffy and drowned him in mochi, and then he had the
Yeah.
Merienda. And then when he came back, Luffy was going gear 4 and flying.
Yeah.
But no, I get what you mean. Like,
Like yeah, like Kid would fly, or I guess would hover,
yeah,
or something. Like he would just like suspend himself on a
he,
bit of rock.
he just he tack and he's just floating because we've seen him lift up and like levitate things in his room, so he could do that
Yeah.
for
I
sure.
mean, we saw him standing on a bit of rock that's suspended in the air before when they were on the rooftop, I think.
Mm. Bloody Kid and Killer, sorry, Killer and Zoro are just like holding on to like Law's rock and Kid's bloody metal that's
Yeah.
levitating, just like, please, please give me a warning next time.
Yeah, literally.
No, it's crazy. I'm excited to see it because like I genuinely we're so late stage now that I think that like just look at what Kaido and Big Mom have actually been capable of. I never thought they were going to be capable of every ability that they've showcased so now. You know what I mean?
Mm,
Like
yeah.
just think about it, right? Big Mum, if you have a fear of death, she can one shot you by ripping your soul out. She can bring the environment around you to life and fight you, right? But her
Mhm.
primary thing that she does is she has a sword that can change length, so you can never accurately properly gauge of how long it is, right? The sword
Mhm.
can react and move on its own. She has fire that she can cloak herself in and add onto her attacks, and she has literal lightning that just spews
Yeah.
around and can move at the speed of lightning just constantly around her to damage you. And that's just
Yeah.
not including her having observation haki, armament haki, or Rio that she can use to just belt the shit out of you.
Yeah, and I mean, like when you think about like Kaido, it's like he basically just exhales and
And
fires a mountain destroying
dude,
laser at you
he
that moves at the speed of
he
a laser.
he exhales and sends out a laser like a fucking kamehameha that just liquefies everything, or he
Mhm.
exhales and sends out invisible scythe slashes that are so
Yeah.
strong that seasoned Harkied warriors literally just fall like they literally just do the stereotypical fall apart like
Yeah.
sliced ham. You know what I mean? And that's not
Yeah.
even that like that's literally just him exhaling. Two different types of exhale,
Yeah.
right? Not to mention, again, advanced Conqueror's Haki, him running around whipping and bashing people over the head, the ability to fly, the ability to pick up a country, almost.
Hmm.
Like, the Yonko are crazy, and that's why I'm sort of sitting here and I'm like, dude, the Admirals are going to be crazy too. And it's like, they don't have as much versatility as the Yonko, but they, like, could you, like, you were saying Law would just, like, teleport and stab Akainu. Could you imagine if Law teleported and goes to stab Akainu, but Akainu has future sight? And it just opens up a
Yeah.
hole in his head, and then Law's like, oh shit, the hole closes and melts Law's sword. And then it's just like, oh shit. Like, and again, like if Akainu or Aokiji or any of them were to fight Big Mom or Kaido, all of a sudden Kaido and Big Mom are using Rio a lot more to not damage themselves in a conflict, right? But it's like Akainu is capable of that same thing. So it's like it's really at the stage in the story where I'm like sitting here and I'm just like, Oda's just going to be like, I'm just going to show off cool abilities and make people ridiculously broken because Luffy can split the skies with his thoughts. We're at that like disgusting end stage. You know what I mean?
Yeah. I
Um,
want it to get to the point when Luffy and Kaido are fighting, but like everyone nearby just like uncomfortable because there's just
Th-
constant massive pressure just exploding out from above them.
So
They're just like, I need to leave.
we don't address this often enough, right? But like, you know how we were talking before, it's like, is Kid going to be Yonko level in this story? Well, it depends on how many Yonko level people there are, right?
Yeah.
I like to point out Zoro by the end of the series in story will be strong enough to do what Big Mom and Kaido do and just casually throw out Elbaf spears like it's nothing, deleting giant portions of land with a backswing. His
Yeah.
tennis game is going to be on point. You know what I mean? Like, he's literally just three sword soldiers going delete, 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 delete. It'd be like Yami from Black Clover. You know what I mean? It's like nothing can stop the slash.
Yeah.
Big Mum can't also continuously use Conqueror's coding. I mean, we don't know. We've never seen Big Mum be bothered to, because everyone she's fought is so significantly weaker than her. For all we know, Big Mum can use the Conqueror's coding like nothing and just use it on everything. She just doesn't. Because, I mean, you got to think, it took Gear 4 before Big Mum even used Haki to defend.
By the way, we still haven't seen anything from Big Mom sucking out Luffy's Gear 4
Yeah.
in Whole Cake.
Yeah.
I've not seen that repeated at all.
No. So it's like, arguably, that could have just been Luffy dropping out of Gear 4 and it was nothing. Fair enough. But it was set up like Big Mum on contact can still start to take your soul out, whereas she can do it at a distance if you're scared. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I mean, that was the thing because, like, yeah, because I remember actually, like, kind of like trying to argue back against you, like, a little bit with that.
Yep.
Being like, oh, I don't know, like, she's probably just sort of like blocking him. The spirit stuff was probably just around her arm to like power up her fist or something. But like, you kind of like won that. Like, I was like, yeah, fair enough,
I mean,
actually.
I pointed out like
It definitely does
that
look like she's
she
pulling it out of him.
she has specialized haki on that we've only seen when people are using haki with their devil fruit, right?
Mm-hmm.
She has an aura around her hand, and the sound effect is like zzz, like there's energy coming off it, right?
Yeah.
And there's a trail of smoke coming from Luffy to her hand.
Yeah.
So, like, the fact that Oda had to draw that, Oda had to put the sound effect there like that, and how Oda decided to do that is sort of like there's something in that. Now, we know what we've seen in the past is if you're scared in front of Big Mum and she says life or treat, your soul starts flying to her.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? But for all we know, if she's in a situation, and she's not in a situation now because Law and Kid keep attacking her off guard, right? But if she was fighting, like, imagine if she was fighting a Rouge, right? And a Rouge isn't scared of dying. She clashes with him and then starts sucking out a little bit of life, like a day at a time on contact when she's activating her ability. Because it's like he's not scared, so she can't rip out his whole lifespan, but she can shave away at the years while they fight.
Yeah.
Because that definitely seems like something that was set up and just like hasn't been paid off yet. Which would be really interesting in the fight against Kid if she starts to try and use it, and it just so happens that the two people she's fighting are Kid and Law, the people that can fight without touching you.
Yeah.
Like, pretty convenient there, you know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
Oh, alright. That being said, is there any last thoughts you want to say about the chapter?
Pretty happy. It was very, very good.
Oh my god, it was such a good chapter. Do you have any predictions for the next chapter? Chapter 1030. It seems crazy that we're that far into the story again. I remember when the 1000 dropped. 1000 was the
I'm
first
hoping
chapter this year.
hoping something with Zoro.
Zoro?
Potentially. I mean, we just basically just saw Sanji's power up. Maybe next chapter we're gonna start getting a Zoro's power up, or just more about his conquerors or something like that. Just something new for Zoro, more than just him fighting,
That would be
doing the
interesting.
same old stuff. Yeah.
I definitely reckon it would be good to see the Rise of Fukurojuko fight just wrap up in half a chapter.
Mm-hmm.
See a little bit of Sanji or a little bit of Zoro. And I think what would be good is we flash over to Yamato doing whatever she's doing to stop this place blowing up. like I'd like to start wrapping up some of those plot lines so we can just like get start to finish Zora versus Queen, Zora as Sanji versus Queen, Zora versus King, cliffhanger, Luffy and Luffy versus Kaido and Kid versus Big Mom. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Yeah.
That being said, do you think Big Mom's going down? Like, do you think Kid and Law are going to be able to beat her?
Um, I don't know. I think she has to, right? I feel like she has to. I don't think I won't be very hype at all. Um, if Luffy beats Kaido and then has to go and then fight Big Mom, I just don't think I'll care that much.
Mm.
'Cause we've seen her already. Like if it was another Yonko that we hadn't seen, I'd be a bit excited because I'd be like, yeah, Yonko Luffy versus another Yonko. Um,
Big
but
Mom for
because
Nakama.
we've already seen so much Big Mom that I don't want to see another like little mini arc of him going and beating her at Elbaf.
I mean,
I'm okay.
Big Mom and Kaido have been the plotline since Fishman Island, really. Right?
Hmm.
Like, Big Mom was introduced at the end of Fishman Island. Then immediately we pick up on Punk Hazard trying to mess with Kaido. Right? So Big Mom and
Hmm.
Kaido, and I mean, even pre time skip, Kaido was first mentioned in Thriller Bark, where we just so happened to meet Big Mom's daughter. So I don't like. I know people want to see Big Mom make it to Elbaf and all that sort of stuff. I think Kaido and Big Mom are a joined story. They were always planned to be a side by side story, and I think they're going to go down in the same arc, really.
Yeah.
And I think they have to because they represent the last stronghold of change. Doflamingo's gone down, so the reins are off. Chaos reigns supreme. Kaido and Big Mom are the only two that actually have enough power to maintain order. Because Blackbeard's a wild card, and Shanks can't maintain world peace on his own. You know what I
Yeah.
mean?
Yeah.
That being said, this has been a discussion of One Piece Chapter 1029. All right. If you haven't done so already, you know what to do. Follow us on all the socials. All right. Do all that good stuff. And help us hit our goal of 75 subs for the month of October. We're currently at 57. Now, I like 57, but it's no 75. So turn those numbers around and get us up to 75. I love how I just can luckily do that on this stream. Thankfully, they're just mirrored numbers. It makes me feel good. um, yeah, so peace. Daniel, say goodbye.
Goodbye.
Goodbye. And yeah, until the next video or until next time you see me, peace and have a damn good day. Nothing but love, nothing but respect.